Hi, I'm Harry Garside, Olympic bronze medalist from the Tokyo Olympics, now professional boxer. You are listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, proudly brought to you by Polar's stunning new generation running and GPS watches and Pogo Physio's online telehealth consultations. I'm Brad Beer, sports and exercise physiotherapist by trade and training and founder of Pogo Physio. Each week we'll bring you the latest and greatest information and inspiration designed to help you perform at your physical best. And of course we do this across a range of our different episodes: interest editions, coaches' corners, learnings catch-up episodes, featured performers, and expert editions. And we are back on the airwaves for 2023 after a summer break, bringing you a wonderful conversation that I recently had with our featured performer this week, Harry Garside, 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games bronze medalist in the lightweight division and 2018 Commonwealth Games champion, in 2018 Commonwealth Games lightweight champion, 7 times Australian national boxing champion, Harry Garside. Now, this is a wonderful, uplifting, inspiring, and informative conversation with Harry. You'll enjoy Harry's top tip to see you perform at your physical best. Harry lays down a wonderful physical challenge and, of course, outlines some career highs, lows, and learnings. In recent times, Harry undertook some rigorous physical challenges, including taking part in endurance events such as a 70.3 triathlon. And a big shout out to Harry's triathlon coach, Coach Marcus Forrest of Run Forest Run Triathlon Club, who connected Harry and I for this conversation. Thank you, Marcus. So get ready. Here is Harry Garside, this week's featured performer, 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games bronze medalist in the lightweight boxing division, sharing career highs, lows, and learnings. Harry Garside, we have been waiting with anticipation for this one. Welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Awesome, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Harry, I don't know where to start. You have been in a flurry of activity with the 47-month challenges, which recently saw you take on your first 70.3 half Ironman triathlon in Melbourne. Prior to that was the Kingscliff Triathlon. Prior to that was a 60K run for Movember, the longest run at that point you'd ever done. And then you've just recently done a 100-kilometre run on the soft sand. I think it was at Bondi. How you feeling?
Mate, the body is hating me right now, but the mind and I think my personality, mate, I'm a bit addicted to the physical pain. So I feel pretty accomplished. But it was the month of November. It was a massive month.
Because was that all in November? Those 4 things.
All in 1 month. Oof. Yeah.
Harry, the sports physio in me celebrates the achievement, but I'm concerned about your Achilles tendons and calves after the 100K soft sand run. How are they?
Mate, that is the only thing that is actually niggling me right now. It's obviously not a complete tear, thank God, because I heard that's like 12 to 18 months recovery. That's what I've heard from a few different sources. So but like it's just a little niggle. So just a couple of stretching, getting an often massage as well, once or twice a week, trying to get some blood flow down there. But it feels okay. Just won't be running anytime soon, probably in the next week or 2.
Okay. So, all right. Well, congratulations on a huge month. And obviously Australia, the Australian sporting public's fallen in love with who you are, what you stand for, your success in recent times with the bronze medal at the Tokyo Olympic Games, the gold medal, Commonwealth Games here in Australia, 7 national titles, amateur, 1 professional title, lightweight professional. Mate, you have just been on an upward trajectory. But we theme this show, Harry, the highs, lows and learnings. But it's always nice to get a little bit of context around the athlete, the featured performer. that sort of frames the person you've become. So if we can, just take it back to the start. I know you've spoken about this publicly before, but you grew up with two elder brothers, Sean and Jack, and how did you first put on a pair of gloves?
Yeah, it was an interesting upbringing for me. Like when I look back, there's a lot of positive moments in my upbringing. But yeah, just being the youngest of three boys and growing up in a place that was very working class, very male dominated. Just felt like, I guess, the expected role was just to go to school, probably drop out year 10 and then become a tradesman, just like most of my mates and my brothers. And for me, when I was younger, I just felt like a little bit different to my two older brothers and my dad. And of course, don't get me wrong, I wanted to just be like them. I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to be respected from them. And I often did things when I was away from my brothers and away from my family, I would act more manly just to try and prove that I was a man. And I think I initially started boxing at the age of 9 to try and get some respect from my brothers and my dad. They never did boxing, but I often saw them on the footy field fighting. They were fighting with each other. My dad would tell stories about his upbringing. He grew up in England. He would fight often, and he'd always tell me stories. So I think hearing all that stuff, I think that's what men are supposed to do. So I started boxing and just instantly fell in love with the sport within the first week. And then there's many reasons as to why that is. But yeah, super grateful I walked into the gym. Yes, it was because I wanted to just prove that I was a man and get respect, but I fell in love with the sport of boxing.
And proving that you're a man to get respect, where do you think that drive came from? Was it just as the youngest sibling, one of three boys, the older brothers were taking the lion's share of attention and you had to try and win some praise and time? Or where did that drive come from, do you think?
Yeah, that's funny you ask that, because it's actually been something that I've really been pondering recently with my psychologist, just around, I found myself in a bit of a pattern, searching for my parents' validation and my parents' attention, even still now at the age of 25. So something big happens in my life. The first thing that I catch myself doing is wanting to call my parents and tell them that this has happened. And I just want them to sort of be proud of me and celebrate me. And not that they weren't, because my parents love us dearly and they're two of the best people. But I think having two older brothers who were really loud, really rambunctious, took up a lot of space, I think I felt I had to do extraordinary things in order to be unique, be different, and get a little bit of attention, if that makes sense, from my parents. And yeah, I've just found myself, obviously when I was younger, lacking a little bit of attention just because of my brothers. And then, later on in life, it's just sort of blossomed into this, even still now, trying to do amazing things to get my parents' attention.
Well, I'm smiling because those that know you and follow your journey would certainly attest to two words you just used, Harry, that you're unique and you're different. And I think that's worth celebrating. I'm the dad of three beautiful girls, and they have their own little nuances. And one thing I want to see them do is grow up just to be who they want to be and express who they are in full. No dilution of that. And I look at people like yourself, and I absolutely love what you stand for and love how you go about it unapologetically. Your fashion sense through to a boxer jumping in a ballet class. Who says you shouldn't do that? I think it's absolutely brilliant that you model that. So I think you certainly are unique and different. And I think that's partially the Harry Garside charm, while the sporting world is one of the reasons why the sporting world's fallen in love with you.
Yeah, thank you, mate. It's definitely something that I'm all about. I truly think that every human, imagine a society where, okay, I'll start this again. So I truly think it's actually a bit of human need to feel connected to a community, to feel accepted, to feel like we're part of the tribe. It's a human need, but I would love to see and envision a tribe/community accepting people walking differently. Walking a little bit more funk, walking in their true essence. That's what I see the world as, because I truly think every individual is that unique, beautiful, different, crazy And it's like, if no one conformed and everyone walked differently, imagine how crazy this world would be. But just imagine if the herd accepted that. And I think that's what I'm trying to push. I'm just trying to push people trying to discover themselves, trying to understand who they are, do different things, do things out of your comfort zone, because that's the only place that I feel you'll discover who you really are. Or else you're just going to conform and be like the people around you who have probably done that, conform. I'm all about people just walking in their true essence and I guess not conforming and just being themselves. And I would love to see a world where every human was that, just themselves, and they didn't feel this pressure to conform just so society would accept them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very real pressure, isn't it? What are the costs you've encountered through not conforming? Like, what are the, is it people misunderstanding you, your fashion sense? What are the costs that you encounter through such an approach?
Yeah, for me personally, like majority of my life, I felt I did that conform. The reason why I started boxing was because I wanted to be more like my brothers and I wanted to be like my dad and I wanted to be accepted. And of course, I fell in love with the sport. But the older I got, and there was a few little pivotal moments in my life, but the older I got, the more that I realized that there's so much inside of me that I'm yet to discover. And that's partially the reason why I do those challenges that you mentioned at the start, why I try and do different things, why I take up ballet classes, why I wear clothes that I don't care what people think about what I'm wearing. I'm just trying to understand myself and understand the world. And one of the things I love most about myself is there's actually not much. I can't think of anything. I'm sure someone could stump me. But if someone suggested me to do something, I would say yes. I would try it. And if I didn't like it, beautiful. I won't try that again. Perfect. But it's like, at least I tried it. And I love that I have that mindset of just trying. And I think that's where I'll discover exactly who I am, because I'm still yet to discover. I'm only 25. So I'm quite in my infancy of my life.
The challenges, what was the genesis for that? Like, where did that come from? Was that just out of pushing yourself to be uncomfortable, or was there more to it?
Yeah, so the birth of that was the Australian Institute of Sport prior to the Tokyo Olympics. So between the 2018 Commonwealth Games, I think the first camp was at the end of 2018. So pretty much 2019, they did a camp with the Commando Regiment, the Australian Army, and there was all these athletes here. And through the camp, one of the biggest messages I got out of it is, if you want to grow as an athlete and grow as a person, go to the areas where you feel most uncomfortable. And I started my first challenge a few weeks after that. The first challenge was having a really deep and hard conversation with my family. That was in January of 2019. And that was my first challenge. And then every month since then, I've been doing a challenge. And initially, it was purely just so I could be a better athlete. But then seeing my growth as a human since I started this, like, I'll do this for the rest of my life. And I'm starting to run out of ideas, and you're starting to cluck at straws and stuff like that. But there's still many things on the list that I'm yet to do. But it's been amazing. And it's just like, I heard this quote. So I'll go off on little tangents. My brain works widely. But I heard this quote. There's no evidence in this world to prove that this life is serious. And often as humans, we take this life so serious. We need to get that. We need to get that pay rise. We need to get that new house. We need to make sure our kids go to good schools. We need to make sure I win an Olympic gold medal. Like, we take it so serious. But I find a lot of joy out of these challenges because there's the play element of it. I feel like a kid a lot of the time in most of the challenges, not all of them, but some of them. And I love that I can be playful and sort of unlock my inner nostalgia and inner child.
I mean, it's well known in education circles that if you want young kids to learn, they have to have playtime built in, and play is a big component of it. I mean, working in sports physiotherapy, tracking athletes' journeys over years, you often do see the play element dim, whether that's because of mounting expectations of performance or just fatigue, malaise kick in after season after season. So I think play, what you just said, is so powerful. Keep it fun where possible.
Yeah, it's like that spontaneity element of humanness, and just think about being a kid, how you're always doing different things. A kid can have a tea party by themselves and be talking to their kettle, and just that imagination and that beauty, and they could be so immersed in that moment for a few hours. And as we grow older, we slowly lose that. And I've noticed that within myself. But just, I guess, to reignite that from 2019 onwards has been really fun.
I've just turned 42. I think I'm getting more immature, though. I often comment that I think I'm getting more immature in recent times, and I don't know why, but I'm going with it for a while anyway, Harry. Harry, you mentioned there that the month of 47 challenges started back in 2019, January, after you were inspired by the Commando Regiment talking to a group of athletes there pre-Tokyo Olympic Games. And you said it started with a hard conversation with your parents. Of course, do not have to share the details in full of conversation, but just intrigued to know, what were you talking about? I mean, if you're happy to share. Yeah,
it was, personally, I was just going through, so I just come off the Commonwealth Games in 2018, won gold, and then I was quite young at the time. I think I was 20. And yeah, it was just like really navigating the highs and lows of that. You mean riding the massive high, and then I'd come down, and the back end of 2018, I was really, really struggling, and just went through my first ever breakup. You mean, as a young person, it's heartbreaking. And my brother just came out with a drug addiction, and I sat down with my family, and I'm the type of person I seem to bury myself in goals and ambition and push them to the side. But this one really come up towards the back end of 2018 and early 2019, and just had to really discuss with the people closest to me exactly what was going on, because he's got a very extreme mindset and a very extreme personality, and I let the highs and the lows really take me, which is a blessing and a curse. And it's something that at a 20 years old young man was really struggling to navigate. And I'm grateful that at 25 now, I've been through that a few more times with a few more highs and lows, that I've got a few more tools in the shed where I can manage that myself and with other people as well. So just was really struggling to navigate that period, to be completely honest. And I sat and spoke with my family and just told them exactly what was happening for myself, which was quite challenging and quite hard. And
there's always growth on the other side of those difficult conversations, isn't there? No matter what the context, what the setting.
Oh, absolutely. And it's what I found from that conversation as well is just, it almost opened up the level of vulnerability for my family too. Like, of course, don't get me wrong, our family always had vulnerability and we would always share, if that makes sense. But just the fact that I went there as well, it gave my dad the permission to go there in the next few months. And it gave my mum the permission as well, if that makes sense. Because I think as parents, it's like your young boys, I'd imagine. And like, you don't want to tell them about your problems. They're still your kids. And I feel I just opened that gate up for them through that conversation. And I'm really grateful that I did, because yeah, we can have some really deep conversations. And my dad broke down to me for the first time, not long after that. So it was a beautiful thing. And I feel like that moment really opened the gate up for them as well.
Wow. So your father broke down not long after that conversation. I imagine there may have been tears on the other side of Australia's first boxing medal at the Olympic Games for 33 years, Tokyo 2021.
I'm so lucky. I've got two of the best parents, mate. They always support me and celebrate me. And at the 2018 Commonwealth Games, I saw him. There's a video of him pulling down his sunnies. He had sunnies on inside, bawling his eyes out. But he's proud of Punch with me, and so is my mum. And I'm just really grateful that growing up, they gave me so many opportunities that I wouldn't be the man I am now if it wasn't for them.
Yeah, wow, beautiful. We typically ask featured performers where their genes come from, their sporting genes. What about yourself, Mr. and Mrs. Garside? What's the gene split here, Harry? Anyone in the family tree that's pursued, elite sport, I should say?
Dad, growing up, he played like reasonably high level rugby union, but he I think he was more about being around the boys in a team environment. And mum's always been really active, but yeah, they're definitely not two athletes. I think one thing about I think athleticism, it's like, of course, don't get me wrong, having natural ability and having the things that your body gives you, fantastic. I mean, I think, is it Grant Hackett who's got the bigger heart, like a really big lung capacity or something like that? Yes, of course that helps. But we all know sport is 90% mindset. So I think I probably got my mindset from my parents, which I'm really grateful for. And that's been the biggest attributes that's helped me with my sporting endeavours.
So the psychological aspect, 90%, it's often cited, isn't it? But what's the other 10% comprised of? Physical preparation, physical abilities? Yeah,
I think physical preparation, that's mindset as well. I'll put that under mindset personally. But I think obviously that 10%, there's an element of luck, I think, as well. In sport, don't get me wrong, there's an element of luck, that, especially in a sport of boxing, where at the Olympics, I could have drawn that Cuban who I fought in the semi-final and lost, so I could have drawn him in my first fight. So there's the element of luck, of course. I think as well there's the element of natural ability and stuff like that. But having a really strong mindset, being consistent and just showing up day after day, even on those days where you are making absolutely no improvements or you feel like you're making no improvements, still showing up and having a red hot crack. Because I think it's just consistency and persistence that are the things that get you to where you want to be.
I mean, your career models that, doesn't it, Harry? Like, you tried numerous times to get an Olympic berth. I think you lost circa, excuse the stats if I'm a little bit off, 8 out of your first X amount of fights. You do really model that persistent approach.
Yeah, I think it's vital. And I spoke to my partner now, and beautiful. She was really successful as a swimmer in her early teenage years and was doing really well. And then how often do you hear growing up those kids who were amazing in their early teenage years, and I know the other kids who are losing all the time, they start slowly catching up over time, and the people who are really good, they lose the love, the passion, because they didn't have to really work for it. And I'm quite grateful my life turned out the way it did, because I lost not just in boxing but in most sports, and I definitely lost more than I'd won in sport up until the age of 17, 18, and just to build that resilience, I guess, for the younger. It's all about what you do in those moments. I think that will tell the story of your life. If you choose to accept that you're a loser and choose to accept that, that's totally fine. At least you accepted it, I guess. But I just refused to accept it, and I kept working, and I guess here we are now.
As you put in your hashtags on social media, Harry, chasing greatness, the quest continues. You're listening to Harry Garside on this featured performer episode 355, sharing his career highs, lows and learn-ins. Support for today's show comes from Polar. If you are looking for a stunning running GPS watch or multi-sport watch to see you achieve your endurance sporting goals in 2023, then look no further than Polar's range. My favourite is the Polar Pacer Pro, which I have on my wrist as I record this, and it accompanies me on all my swim and run workouts. My wife enjoys the Polar Ignite 3 stunning new Polar watch. You really cannot go past Polar's unique monitoring metrics, and they are the leaders when it comes to heart rate technologies. So if you're looking to achieve your best in 2023, jump over to polar.com. Support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio's online telehealth consultations. If you are an endurance athlete struggling with bone, tendon or joint-related concerns, then Pogo Physio's online 45-minute consultations can be an ideal way to get you back to your physical best. You can schedule your 45-minute online consultation with myself, Brad Beer, or any of the Pogo Physio team. Jump over to pogophysio.com.au/telehealth. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured performer, Tokyo Olympic Games lightweight boxing bronze medalist Harry Garside, sharing on his career highs, lows and learn-ins. Harry, we theme this show the highs, lows and learn-ins. We have since we started 7 years ago, but you mentioned you went through quite some highs, quite some lows. You had some you've developed tools in your shed to deal with those. But tough question, but of your career, from your career to date, what sits above the rest as your greatest accomplishment, and why?
Well, when it comes to like athletic, like my athletic achievements, it would have to be I'm in two minds. I think it'd have to be the Olympics, but like to be completely honest, it's like the athletic achievement isn't the thing that I'm most proud of. It's like, yes, of course, that's the best accomplishment, but it's more the man that I've become throughout that journey. And there's been many moments that I've been proud of the person that has shown up. Like prior to the Olympics, prior to the Commonwealth Games, that feeling I got when the day before the tournament started, where I could just look myself in the eyes and just be proud of the man that stood right in front of him. That's what I'm proud of. And there's been many moments post the Olympics where I guess my fame has got a little bit bigger, and people coming up to me in the shops, and little kids, grown men, other people, they're always coming up to me and just really making sure I give them the time of day, and never thinking that, I'm someone I'm not, and always showing up and having good values and good morals. That's probably what I'm more proud of. But I think that's all attributed to, one, my family, the people I've met throughout my younger years. But then also as well, sport's a beautiful thing. It teaches you a lot about yourself, about the world. And I think it's made me really grounded, really, I don't like using the word humble, but really grounded, and just never thinking I'm bigger than what I am.
Gosh, I mean, there's that description of humility, which is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking less often about yourself. And perhaps that's, what you just were touching on there, that you're giving people time of day. Obviously, your stardom, if you like, in Australia has just shot through the roof post the Olympic success. And it's so nice to hear you still putting a priority on that, Harry.
Yeah, it's you never forget where you came from, and yeah, regardless of what happens, it's been quite an interesting journey. Like I would hate to be like a Justin Bieber, or I would hate to be someone like that, but I'm like a D-grade celebrity, mate. So it's quite manageable, and it's just nice though to I guess to connect with humans, and I guess in those moments I remember when I was younger, lining up Andrew Gage, trying to sign my sneakers, and going to the basketball. I was obsessed with basketball, going to the cricket, going to the Commonwealth Games in 2006. Like, I remember those moments, especially as a young kid, and to be inspired by what I saw and the athletes there and the performances. And if I could give that to one young person, then I'm doing my job as an athlete. And athletes like to think that their life's hard and stuff like that, but I'm loving it, mate. I get to do what I love every single day, and get to train hard. I get to meet really cool people, and life isn't that hard. That's for sure for myself.
Hey, might be a D-grade celebrity, but an A-grade person, Harry. Harry, we also like to pull out of our featured performers the darkest day in their athletic career to date. Certainly not to dwell there, but it's a reality, right? There's the success, but there's also the super hard, challenging times, which is relative, of course. But in your world to date, what's been the darkest day in the professionals or in your sporting career, Harry?
Yeah, it's so true. It's relative, because like when I lost my first national title at the age of 13, 14, like that was devastating, heartbroken. But I think the one that affected me the most, early 2020, just before COVID hit, I'm in Jordan in the Middle East, and we're fighting. This is our first qualifier, one of two qualifiers. So if I got given the spot there, if I won my spot there, I was going to the Olympics. I had two opportunities. If I won both those fights, I was going to the Olympics. I prepared so well. I had a great preparation. I fought really well. I was proud of how I fought that tournament, but I lost both those fights. And I've never howled before in my life. I've only heard one person howl. It was when my grandma passed and my mum was howling. That deep internal primal cry. And I just remember going out the back and I howled. It was uncontrollable, and I never thought that I wasn't going to make it. And then all that happened from that, of course, that day was really hurtful. But we then come back to Australia. The next qualifier gets cancelled. We're not sure if the Olympics is even going to happen because COVID really hit the world. And yeah, the next sort of 3-4 months, mate, to be completely honest, I was very lost. I was in Melbourne for the lockdown and being isolated, and that was probably the darkest time of my sporting career. I found myself, sort of turning to really negative things and just having a lot of negative thoughts and lacking motivation, and just thinking that I guess my Olympic dream was over, and to finally get through that and then changing the mindset of, regardless if the Olympics happens, if it does, I'm going to make sure I'm ready for when the next qualifying event is. And I turned that around mid-2020, and then the back end of mid-2020, I really spent my time focusing and honing in on myself and my abilities.
Yeah, wow. Thanks for sharing. Harry, what are the keys to your physical preparation? I recall as an exercise science physio student at university, one of our experiment subjects at the time was Paul Briggs, and we got Paul into the lab and tested Paul's physiology. I recall at the time Paul was running quite a lot of kilometres per week for cardiovascular conditioning, and I was quite astounded as a young guy that grew up from the age of 11 to 20 doing triathlon as my sole sporting interest. I was astounded at the workload that Paul was under. It was huge, and his VO2 scores, which we tested in the laboratory that day, were really high. And I remember being so impressed. Mind you, before triathlon, I used to do Taekwondo. So I sort of have a bit of an idea about combat sports, but I was just so impressed with his physicality. So can you put the listeners in a little bit of perspective of a typical training week, say, leading up to a major bout, what that entails?
Yeah, it's hard to really compare, I guess. I guess in the last sort of few months for myself, I've been doing different sports, but for the Olympics and Commonwealth Games, which are two probably my best preps to date, we wake up in the morning, we do cardio, whether that be running, cycling, rower, sometimes swimming, but not very often. But and then at 11 o'clock, we've got strength and conditioning, whether that be heavy lifting or a conditioning circuit. And then at 4 o'clock, always boxing. So that would be Monday through to Friday. And then Saturday I would have a running session, and then often sparring at 11 o'clock. So, and then Sunday off. So it's a pretty hectic week, but like listening to some swimmers and stuff like that, like they do a couple of hours in the morning. They sometimes go straight from the pool to the gym, and then they swim in the afternoon. To myself, I'm a terrible swimmer, but I'm thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of training. And of course, don't get me wrong, boxing is hard, combat sport's hard for many different reasons, but for myself, the training seems quite manageable.
Yeah, but that's, session-wise, that's 3 sessions a day, Monday to Friday, Saturday at least double session, Sunday rest day. Like, there's a lot of hours, accrued time there. Obviously, it's a fun question. What was harder, the 70.3 half Ironman triathlon or going X amount of rounds in the ring?
I really thought about this because I said straight after the race, and I guess when you're straight after something, I said it was the 70.3. But then I actually woke up the next day, and yes, I was sore and I was fatigued. But with boxing after a tournament, the hard thing about boxing, right, you can fight 5 times in 2 weeks, right? So then you got to make weight every single time you fight. So you're often dehydrated, depleted, your energy levels are really low, and your body recovering after that tournament it takes weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So I recovered quite well after the 70.3. I just think the added level of 4.5 hours of just torture was amazing. I loved every second of it. But at the same time, it seemed harder when I was in it because it was longer.
Yeah, it's a totally different demand on the body, isn't it? The psychology is different, the physicality is different. The commonality is, as you said at the top of the show, you're addicted to pain. So that was the common theme between getting in the ring and being on the half Ironman course. I saw in one of the social media comments after you did your 100 kilometre soft sand run, Georgia Miller, surf lifesaving Ironman champion, she commented, "What's next, Harry? It looks like Ironman Triathlon's calling you." Is that the case?
I actually really, I'm quite addicted to them. The following weekend, post the 70.3, I did the Kingscliff sprint distance, and I loved every second of it. I ran a really good time. I was stoked. I did it with my best mate who I've grown up with, and it's addictive, mate. And I definitely would love to manage both. And I definitely want to do a full Ironman one day. I'm just not sure on like the amount of punishment on the body, if that makes sense. And I guess it would be someone like you to talk to, as in like the long Ks, the long hard strain on your body and the stress on your body, obviously in training, but then of course in competing. Would just love to see how it impacts people later on in life as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting space. I mean, managing the demands of obviously your priority, which is boxing, alongside long course triathlon would be an interesting journey. But you bring up, and obviously being prepared by Coach Marcus, who we just love up here on the Gold Coast, Run Forest Run, running around in the kit. It was really exciting to see you connect up with Marcus.
Yeah, he's a bloody legend, mate. I lived on the Gold Coast for about 8-9 months back in 2020, 2021. And through that time I did a few sessions with him then, and he's a good man. He's passionate, to say the least, and he really helped me out. I booked that I booked the 70.3 on 26 days notice. So of course I always stay reasonably fit and healthy. But I was in Bali. This is the story. Sorry to the listeners who are sporting fanatics, but I was a few beers down and my best mate messaged me and goes, do you want to do an Ironman in 26 days? And I said, absolutely, sign me up. And then I woke up in the morning realizing a lot of training goes into it and I can't swim that well. And I messaged Marcus and he thankfully helps me out. And I felt really prepared in that month and I'm really grateful he helped me out.
Oh, mate, well, you did so well, and the triathlon community just got such a buzz out of seeing you out there, so we hope to see more of it. Harry, as you know, we theme this the highs, lows and learnings. Let's jump into the learnings. What would Harry Garside say, tough question, are the top 3 characteristics for peak performance? What do you think are the top 3 characteristics?
I've mentioned it already, but I think consistency, just showing up. Consistency and just showing up is so important. Yeah, of course, people like to think it's talent and stuff like that, but I just think showing up and gradually, of course, you need the element of you need to be able to learn things quickly and stuff like that. But just the element of showing up, it's almost impossible to not get better at something if you just show up and have a go. That's the first one. Obviously, working hard, that's something that my dad's really instilled in me. I've really worked and pondered recently around what's more important, working smarter or working harder. And I think they're both vital and important, but I think personally working harder is so much better. Of course, don't get me wrong, this new science stuff is amazing and getting in the boots and doing all the recovery and the plunge pools and having the best nutrition and is fantastic. But I think the biggest thing is showing up, having a crack, and doing what you can and just pushing your level each day or each week. I think that is more important than working smarter. I think when you work smarter, there's the added, my mentality is there's an added layer of you taking almost shortcuts personally, in the sense of you're trying to get, of course, we're always looking for that 1%ers and stuff like that. But if you're taking something to try and give you that added edge or something like that, you're taking a shortcut, just do the work. That's my philosophy. And then the third one, tough one, just having a positive attitude, to be completely honest. Yeah, having a positive attitude and taking constructive criticism. Yeah, something that I've found throughout my sporting career, stuff hurts. People say things that hurt, but usually 99% of the time, they're saying it from a place of love, whether that be a coach, whether that be a teammate, or whether that be a family member or friend. They're saying it out of a place of love and they just want to see you do better. So I think taking constructive criticism and having a positive mindset in those moments. I had many moments that I could elaborate on that coaches said things to me that absolutely hurt. But what I did post that really helped my boxing career. Can you,
obviously without naming names, but can you elaborate on an example of something that a word spoken or a feedback given that was hurtful at the time?
Yeah, there was so I just secured myself a medal. I had my third fight at the Commonwealth Games. I fought Scotland. If anyone's watched me box, I sort of box more on the outside, a bit more of a counter boxer. Don't like getting in there and fighting that often. I find myself more competitive and a better athlete when I'm on the outside. But in that fight, the guy was on the front foot and I stood there and punched on with him more than what I used to. And my coach, who I love to bits, Kevin Smith, he, out the back, I won the fight, just secured myself a medal at the Commonwealth Games. He's 20 years old and he tore me to pieces. And he said, you will not win a gold medal if you box like that in the next 2 fights. I had 2 fights left, and just really cut me down. And of course I just won, but he said that from a place of love because he believed that I could be better, do better, and win a gold medal. He didn't think that I could just win a bronze medal or receive a bronze medal. So gratefully had that hard conversation to me and really sort of take me off cloud nine, because the job's not done. We're not here for bronze medals, we're here for gold medals.
Just got glory chills thinking about that. That's a brilliant example, isn't it?
Yeah, it was an amazing moment, and it was crazy to go out the back, and all my family and that are like tap me on the back and oh, that was amazing. People who don't know boxing, they like to see two people fighting and standing with each other and boxing and fighting. And my family was celebrating me, but I just knew, no, I can do better than that.
Yeah, wow. The job is not done. Harry, just to recap, Harry Garside's top 3 physical performance characteristics: consistency, show up, have a crack, have a go, work hard, and have a positive attitude and be receptive to feedback when it comes, knowing that it's typically from a place of love.
That's it.
Harry, throwing you another hard ball. What would you say your top 3 tips to listeners out there trying to perform at their best around mindset? What are the 3 things that you reckon can help the most with an athlete's mindset?
So I find a beautiful thing. I know the older generation, or the people who I have in my life who are part of the older generation, they love to trash the phone. They say phone use, it's so bad and it's consuming you. But the beautiful thing about the phone is everything is at our fingertips, and we're as smart as a computer, and you can look up anything. You almost don't need a psychologist. I think it's important to have a coach, but you almost don't need a coach. You don't need anything really, to be completely honest. You can look up anything, almost anything on your phone, and it will give you something. So I think utilizing those things, making sure you're conscious of who you're following, who you're digesting, what are you seeing all the time. That's number 1. Probably takes me on to number 2, being really conscious of who the people are that are around you. What's that famous quote? You are the 5 people you spend the most time with. I think that's vital. I had a lot of good role models growing up, but I also had a lot of negative ones. And to, I guess, I don't like to say the word escape, but to leave the place that I grew up and now to have people who are killers, go-getters, strivers, seekers that I have in my life now. I just watch my growth and my inspiration and motivation and is constantly stimulated because I'm surrounded by amazing people. Number 4, just taking the good with the bad, and just understanding that the highs and lows of life and the journey is all part of it. I think I like to view the world so often. I think about so many deep issues, and I think we're teaching people that things are accessible and you can get things instantly. You want something, you want food, order Uber Eats. You want a date, go on Tinder. You want a new TV, go buy it. Everything is so instant. You want instant gratification, post a photo. Everything's so instant. And I think we're teaching young people that you want money, get crypto. You get quick money. That makes sense. And I think we're teaching young people that things happen really quickly. And if they don't happen quickly, it's not going to happen. And I just, through my life, it took me 17 years to make an Olympic team. And then I made it, thank God, for the first time after failing 5 times. And then I luckily, got a medal, And I think we just got to teach more young people that great things take a lifetime.
Yeah, gosh, it's such a good and timely reminder, isn't it? It's quite the first time, I should say, Harry, I've ever heard anyone describe a phone as beautiful, but I think that's a nice first. But you do bring up a good point. It's never been easy to get informed. I often say to young physiotherapists, it's never been easier to get professionally developed than this digital age. If you're not developing, then what's the block? So it's a great point you raise. You said be conscious of who you follow, be mindful of who you're around, and take the good with the bad. They're both going to coexist. Harry, we always have a physical performance round. Rapid fire questions coming your way. You ready?
Beautiful.
Training session most disliked?
Swimming.
Training session most loved?
Sparring.
Favourite pre-race meal?
Peanut butter sandwich.
Bedtime, morning time, what do they look like typically?
9:30 bedtime, morning time 6:30.
Who is the athlete that Harry Garside most admires and why?
LeBron James, and Shane Crawford. When I was growing up, Shane Crawford, because AFL footy star, did a lot for community. And LeBron James, I just think, come from humble beginnings. And, yeah, you never hear him in the news for anything bad. You know, he got given millions and millions of dollars when he was a teenager, and you never hear him in the news for anything bad. And that's someone who I admire and respect.
Toughest competitor you've ever competed against, Harry? Who and why?
Definitely the Cuban at the Olympics. Just an absolute specimen of an athlete. And yeah, just an amazing performer. Yeah, just he punched the shit out of me. Sorry, one for a better word, but that's what he did. And it was just an honour to share the ring with him. And I grew a lot from that performance. And definitely him. In a close second, there's a Japanese bloke who we went to war with each other, and I lost on a split decision. But it was a tough fight. I had burst eardrums and cracked ribs, and it was just an absolute war. Wow.
And I mean, Andy Cruz, your Cuban counterpart there at the Olympics, 2 times, from my research, 2 times world champion.
Yeah, he's an amazing athlete, mate. And he just, I think, just recently turned professional. They're finally allowed to turn professional in Cuba. They weren't allowed for many years. So, he's going to do amazing things for sure.
Is there a mantra, Harry, that you use when you compete? Some regular self-talk?
Well, there's been a few throughout my life. I think, like, to be completely honest, when I'm training, this isn't positive, but it works for me. But it's like, stop being a weak C word. Yeah. Yeah, and it's, as I said, it's not an amazing thing, but it gets me moving. It always gets me reaching new levels. You know, always striving for more. You know, and it's almost like that, the myth of perfection in that voice as well. It's like you can be perfect, but although that's not attainable, so then you're always striving for more.
Best recovery tip, Harry?
Sleep, drink water, eat good food.
Worst injury to date?
Just my hand. I've had a bad hand since the start of 2021 and hasn't fully recovered, to be completely honest. Went into the Olympics not being able to punch for 3 months.
Oh, wow. And where's it up to now? You're working through it?
Yeah, slowly getting there, mate. It's very frustrating. It's just evolved and evolved. I've used it when I thought it was good, and then it went backwards a little bit, and just it's still manageable, but it's just very frustrating. Like, your hands are like a runner having a bad calf or a bad foot, so it's quite frustrating.
Yeah, understandably. Harry, nearly out of the performance round here. One word to describe your competition style. What would it be? One word.
Oh, competitive.
Competitive. How would Harry describe being in the zone?
Oh, being that conscious of your breath and being that conscious of everything that's happening that moment. Yeah. In a ring, it's the most purest form of meditation for myself.
When was the last time you were in that zone, Harry?
Been a while, to be completely honest. I definitely felt it sometimes as similar in the 70.3, sorry. Yeah, just like, I think when you're doing long endurance sets, there's almost like, you know, in 15 Ks on the bike that just goes by. You know what I mean? You're just like, wow, what just happened? So I definitely felt it then, but in boxing, it would be around the Olympics. Yeah.
Such a seductive feeling, isn't it? Harry, final question here out of the performance, around the hardest session you can ever recall doing. Anything stand above the rest? We know that these epic sessions don't alone make champions, but just it's a fun question to ask.
Yeah, I did this. I can't remember the exact details. I could probably find it for you after, but it was me and my one of my mates who I met in quarantine back in 2021. Back in 2020, sorry. We got on like a house on fire because we love pushing each other, and we did a session together. And it was rower. There was like, I think it was like 4K on the rower. And then you get off and you do a certain amount of burpees, and then you get back on and it's 3K, 2K, 1K, 500 meters, 250 meters, and the burpees just got lower and lower and lower. It took us a fair while, but mate, because we were right next to each other, we just absolutely grinded each other.
Was this in quarantine post the Olympics?
No, this was in quarantine. I moved from Melbourne to the Gold Coast. So yeah, it was in 2020, and it was when we got to the Gold Coast after being in quarantine. We just did it almost like 3-4 days out of quarantine. Pretty unfit, but it was amazing.
Oh, that's a great story. Well done, Harry. You're out of the performance round. You can chalk that up as a session for the day. 2 set questions we always ask our guests on the show. Here's the first, Harry. If you could boil everything you've learned about sport, competition, physical preparation into one piece of advice to help listeners of this show perform at their best, what would that one piece of advice be, Harry?
Be passionate about what you're doing. Yeah, very simple. It's one of the most important things, because when things get hard, when things get challenging, when you lose, when you fail, when you don't succeed, if you're not passionate about it, you're not getting back up. Yeah, be passionate about what you're doing.
Powerful. Harry, final question. Every guest issues listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So what is Harry Garside's physical challenge going to be to our listenership?
Ooh. Okay, so I'm giving them a challenge.
Correct.
Is that what it is?
Correct.
Oh, nice. I did this. I'm quite obsessed with breath work at the moment. So I did this this breathwork course, and there's all these improving things about how important nasal breathing is. And I've got pretty bad nasal breathing because of boxing, a lot of traumas to the nose. But I taped my mouth and went for a run. You can do this with water in your mouth, and I did a 5K run, and it was really challenging. I feel like I get feels like 70% of oxygen compared to normal in my nose. But yeah, it was challenging. And if you have to walk, do that. But yeah, go for a 5K run with water or tape in your mouth and see how you go. Don't obviously kill yourself. But yeah, just and then obviously they said as well, do it every month and see the improvements as well.
Gosh, it's such a it's a great challenge. We might see people out there on the streets with tape across their mouth, and we'll know why. And we've featured a little bit on nasal breathing in the past on the show here, Harry, and including an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, Dr. Dan, who actually cleared out my turbinate several years ago because I was struggling to breathe. So it certainly has made a difference to me. Harry, I've got to ask one question as a sports physio. I'm just intrigued to know. I love the ballet in terms of what I work with performers. My cousin was a principal ballet dancer. I went into triathlon, but I just love the physicality of dance. It's remarkable. Sue Mays, who's the Australian ballet physiotherapist and has been for 15 years, I believe, plus, she has taught the sports physio community so much about foot, ankle, lower limb conditions. What have you learnt through your ballet participation?
It's been amazing. And just on a deep thinking point, I feel as humans, it's like the most primitive place we can go. And I think often thousands of years ago, the way we communicated was through song, dance, and just through tribal rituals. And I just feel every time I do a dance class, I'm exercising that primitive nature that I get through boxing as well. But yeah, the biggest thing probably, it's a brutal sport because you can't turn your back to the bar. I can't have chewing gum in my mouth, which I always have chewing gum. I can't wear my watch. You have to wear tight clothes. There's just a lot of rules the place that I go, and I really like the discipline, the structure, and I think the mental strain of a 90-minute class and being on, remembering the steps, falling behind, having the technique. Yeah, the ballet, the best ballerinas in the world are the ones who they make it look so elegant, but they have tension in all their muscles, but you can't see the tension. And that's something that I've really found through ballet is when you're doing it properly, you can feel it everywhere in your body. You're holding your back muscles, you can holding, but it doesn't look like you're holding them, if that makes sense. So it's been amazing, and I'll continue doing it for a long time, I reckon.
Gosh, I mean, if you think about the demands of boxing, footwork, upper body, positioning, and ballet, there's quite a lot of overlap there. It's just not obvious on the outside.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, just like as an athlete, it's probably good for the listeners as well, just as an athlete or as anyone who's just trying to better themselves, doing something you're really bad at. I only started this in 2019 and then COVID hit. So I haven't done it for that long. But doing something that you're really bad at, it's like you're picking things up at a faster pace. I've been boxing for 17 years. I'm lucky to make 0.5% growth in a week. You're lucky to make that. But when you're doing something you're really bad at, you're making these like incrementally massive improvements each week if you're consistently doing it. And you start feeling really positive. And then you take that learning and that learning capability cap into boxing or into your chosen sport. And it's been so amazing for that point as well.
Take that learning cap. I like that turn of phrase there, Harry. Harry Garside, you've been very generous with your time today, and I think it's just a little but fun glimpse into your world, the person that we see behind the athletic performance. So thanks for sharing. What's next for Harry Garside? I believe the months of challenges are going to continue. And then in the boxing world, what's next?
Yeah, it's a great question because I'm slowly but surely navigating that as we speak. It's been an ongoing journey, and as a professional boxer, you can now go back to the amateurs and compete at the Olympics, and there's that added hunger, added desire for myself. So I'm just really making up. They're two different sports. It's like long distance running and sprinting. They're two different sports, although they're running. But yeah, really need to make the decision in the next few weeks / months about what I'm going to do, if I'm going to try for Paris or I'm going to focus on my professional boxing career. And that's the focus and that's on the mind. So once I make that decision, mate, I'll be full steam ahead. And there's no greater honour of representing your country in Olympic Games, that's for sure, for myself. And there's still that we don't go there for bronze medals, we go there for gold medals.
Harry Garside, what a great place to wrap this up. Thank you for your contribution to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Brad.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show, and I trust and I know that you enjoyed Harry's share-ins. What a wonderful character, and we can all watch Harry's journey with great anticipation as to what comes next. Now, if you're yet to follow Harry over on the socials, do jump over to Harry_Garside, Garside, and follow Harry's journey. Talking about the socials, keep the podsies coming. That's a screenshot of the episode that you're enjoying at any given moment. Tag in the show at Physical Performance Show. If you have feedback for the show, you can find me at Brad_Beer over on the socials, Twitter and Instagram. Massive thanks once again to today's show partners, Polar and Pogo Physio. Remember, if you're an endurance athlete looking to achieve your 2023 goals and in the market for a new running or GPS watch, look no further than Polar. Likewise, if you are struggling with bone, tendon, joint or muscle related concerns, jump over to Pogo Physio's online consults, pogophysio.com.au/telehealth. Huge thank you to the show partners, our patrons. If you would like to practically support the show's production, you can do so from just $5 per month. Jump over to Patreon, search for the Physical Performance Show, and there you can pledge your support. Now, in return, all patrons of the show receive complimentary access to our back catalogue of all live stream events and all upcoming live stream events. The catalogue is extensive and first class when it comes to sports medicine and exercise topics, featuring Dr. Stephen Seiler, Dr. Shona Halson, acclaimed dietitian and author Rinny McGregor, and Rory Darkins, who delivered a wonderful live stream event around positive psychology for sport and optimising wellbeing late in 2022. So once again, jump over to Patreon, search the Physical Performance Show, and there you can pledge your support. Now, a huge thank you to the great folk who continue to make this show possible. Daryl Misson, audio engineer, Susan Wilkin, show administration, Matthew Walding, show graphic design, and Milan Borrow, videography. Speaking of the videography, jump over to our YouTube channel, The Physical Performance Show, if you are yet to subscribe to that. There you can see video snippets of our recorded episodes. Now, coming up on next week's episode of The Physical Performance Show, we keep the featured performer theme going, and you'll enjoy a conversation with one of 2022's hottest endurance sports stars, Frenchman Sam Laidlow. Now, for those long course triathlon fans, Sam needs no introduction, having taken the silver medal at the World Ironman Triathlon Championships in Kona in 2022 behind the flying Norwegian Gustav Iden. Sam really was the talk of the town, so to speak, when it came to 2022's Kona World Ironman Triathlon Championships. And here's a little snippet of my conversation with Sam.
The thing is, in St. George, I came 8th, but I was extremely unfit and just came out of COVID. So I kind of knew that something was doable with much better fitness. About 3 or 4 weeks prior, we'd done PTO Dallas, and it was super hot in Dallas. And I really felt like I could keep going for ages. You know, I finished 4th, so just behind Sam Long again. This time, like, everybody was just crumbling at the end. I felt like everybody was diving straight into these ice baths and stuff, and I really felt like I could have just kept going for like double the amount of time. I couldn't push it any faster, but I could go. So then I had a bit of confidence, and my training was going well, and just I felt healthy. My HRV was great. I mean, it was like and even when I went to Kona, then the 2 weeks that I spent there, just every day I was waking up and the training was going so well. I felt like there was no adaptation really to the heat. Maybe going to Dallas already, where it was even hotter than Kona.
So until next week, keep pursuing your physical best. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.